So that is where the London Eye seems to perfectly frame the strange obelisk in the distance, the Shard building. And where do you have to be in order to see that? Sorry, the camera's mucked up. To see that perfect alignment, well, you have to be outside the gates of Downing Street, of course, because that beautiful lining up lineage, you know, the sort of mystical line leads to the mystical place where the mystical leaders do their mystical work, of course. Why am I here? Well, you can probably see over there lots of flags. Let's have a little bit of a zoom in and see what they mean. Our old friend the bumblebee. Well, those are the guys that I've basically been seeing on a very, very routine basis, basically every single day. They're either down here or down at Parliament Square, and of course they're arguing that NATO should save Ukraine from dictatorship. Yeah, and the EU should save Ukraine from dictatorship, because Ukraine, of course, has, you know, corrupt courts, whereas the European courts are filled with justice and just us and justice. There's a lot of helicopters. Is that the same one? No, it's a different one. All floating about. All floating about. So I planned actually to come down to the Russian embassy today, but then I found out that it was absolutely miles away, so I couldn't be asked. Sorry about that. I might go at some point if I happen to be on that side of town. I believe it's like way out there, way out west. Now, there's a lot been going on. There's basically a huge, complex, technological propaganda exercise going on at the moment to do with Ukraine and Russia and Crimea and America and all of that stuff, and it's very, very difficult, isn't it, to get your head around it, to try and work out what it means. What does it all mean? What's actually happening? Well, of course, a good way, yeah, again, sentences have structure, apparently, if you can do it. A good way to understand these things is, of course, to take the historical context. The historical context with Ukraine and the Crimea, of course, leads back to those old imperialist days of, you know, the imperial empires of Europe and of Britain and France. And I'm going to take you somewhere, basically, that'll help to explain what the hell is going on. I wasn't recording, that's funny. So I'm essentially taking you up towards Piccadilly Circus, where there is a monument that explains a historical context to the whole Ukrainian thing. But along the way I just wanted to talk briefly about the press industry. There's some of them there. What have those guys been doing? Those guys have been photographing that car, which is here for some reason. Oh, you'll never guess what. Britain, business is great in Great Britain. There's the old stupid British imperialist council, the British Council, bunch of scumbags. Makes me upset whenever I see that thing. Business is great. Great Britain. Yeah, business is great. I'm sure it is. will show you how great business is. I'm not sure if I've shown it in other videos, but this is the old Admiralty building, which is the old Navy headquarters. That strange brown leafy thing, sort of dead remnant, is the Citadel, which was naval intelligence, the Office of Naval Intelligence in the Second World War. It's where Ian Fleming worked. Ian Fleming, up until 1939, was a journalist. He was writing for newspapers, I believe, and then all of a sudden, as if by magic, in 1939, when the Second World War started, he was suddenly put into a very high office of naval intelligence. So just ordinary journalist, and then straight into one of the top places of military intelligence. Do you think possibly he could have been a spy before he became officially a spy? A spy? Working as a journalist? Surely not. Well, a very, very, very quick study of history tells you that journalism and spying are hand in hand. There's another smellycopter. Can't see it. There it is. What was this one? Oh, it's a military one. I believe that helicopter's called like a Hellcat or something. Very weird, I thought, the stuff that's happening with RT, Russia Today, and those so-called journalists who are, reading heartfelt comments from an auto cue and mucking up the grammatical context and not really saying what they really felt from the heart in any way that displayed that they were actually speaking from their heart. And then one quit live on air because she said, she just can't work for an organisation that's funded by the Russian government. Well, yeah, you could work for an organisation that worked for the Russian government because you did for so very, very long. This doesn't really have any relevance, but it's something that I've been meaning to come and visit for a long time. Of course, outside the Naval Intelligence Building is the sort of weird obelisk things covered in weird symbols of sort of octagon and just like weird, strange things like a bow tasseled horn. These things are cool. It's the inscription on the side, which is kind of hidden away. You see that the side of this building sort of comes out to here, and then this thing is sort of tucked away, and even the inscription is sort of obscured. But we'll have a go at reading it. It says, "Blow out, you bugles, over the rich dead. The rich dead. Business is good. Business is great. The rich dead. There's none of these, so lonely and poor of old, but dying has made us rarer gifts than gold." Wow. These laid the world away, poured out the red, sweet wine of joy. The red, sweet wine of joy, and that unhoped, serene of work and joy, and that, no, I've done it all wrong, that men call age, and those who would have been their sons they gave their immortality. Robert Brooke, Hood Battalion, 1887, 1915. Scary, really scary. See, look, every time, zoom in first and then zoom out. Scary, isn't it? The sweet wine, the red, business and war have always gone together. And that is essentially what I'm going to be talking about when we get up here. Shall I do another time lapse? Of course I'm going to do another time lapse. Let's go. So I'm here on Pall Mall, which is of course the home of international villainy. They have, well, they show it very evidently for us by all the sort of symbols of little flames and torches, and the illumination of their lives. They don't hide it very much. I mean, just look over there, for example. There's the flame going. Look up, and that place is called Villainry. It's all pretty much the same. And this is where you will find the Crimean War Memorial, which is what this crazy object is here. You can see on the side it says Crimea. Now, looking at the Crimean War, which was in the mid-1800s or the 1850s, really does shed light, illumination, on what is going on in the Crimea today. The Crimean War was referred to as the first modern war, and by modern war what they were talking about essentially was the modern communication system that we used in the Crimean War, that being the telegraph system. It was where the telegraph system basically had a massive revolution, where before it would take several days to take information from the battlefield back to Britain, say. During the Crimean War, which was basically a coalition of England and France against Russia, they had brought about a telecommunication system where they could transfer information from the battlefield in a matter of hours. Now, this basically laid the way for the propaganda exercise that was the first, or the Crimean War. I shouldn't say the first Crimean War, because that would be leading into this whole sort of like, oh, World War III update, everyone, World War III update. Which of course is bullshit, because very, very unlikely there's going to be anything happening with Crimea, because it is just a massive, massive propaganda exercise, as it was in the Crimean War. Now, there's a lady standing at the front there, the lady with the lamp. I should probably show you the lamp. The lady with the lamp, huh? Lady with the lamp. Florence Nightingale. All sort of pictures of her like looking after soldiers and stuff like that. There she is with her lamp up there. You see her holding the lamp. Of course, Florence Nightingale looked after the British soldiers in the Crimean War, and there was a lot of terrible things that happened to soldiers in the Crimean War. The charge of the Light Brigade, for example, was when lots of young British men were basically just sent into the guns, and this really helped the propaganda exercise. The Crimean War essentially was it was argued, and the official history of the Crimean War is that Britain and France must protect those poor pilgrims, the Christians that wanted to move to the promised lands, and were being restricted by these terrible imperial Russians. And no doubt in Russia it was exactly the same story, but with different names attached to the same propaganda. This particular memorial, by the way, is made out of melted down cannons that were sort of salvaged from the Russian forces, and it says up there to the memory of officers, brigade of guards who fell during the war with Russia, erected by their comrade. Look at this little fella. He thinks he's going to eat an orange. No, he's realised that it's just an orange. Okay, that's fine. Now, of course, we're seeing a complete reflection, a complete parity with what's going on now with what happened then. It's a massive propaganda exercise where the argument is that we must save the people, when in actual fact it's just to do with it's to do with control of the region. You see, Crimea is a perfectly situated place for control of a much larger region. Russia knows this, Russia has always known this, Britain knows this, France knows this, and have always known that. And of course America knows that controlling and protecting the Crimea, and protecting the people is essentially just protecting their own imperial intents and their own business model. The Crimean War ended basically in a kind of defeat with the Russians. The Russians, no doubt, have never really forgotten about that defeat. It is no surprise that the talks about what's going on in Crimea are happening in Paris, because it was the Treaty of Paris in 1856 or 1858 or something like that, where Russia basically was, pinned down, and they had to agree that they had to allow Britain and France to do whatever they wanted in the Black Sea. Crimea was about control of a region, but really the thing that enabled control of the region was control of people's minds by using propaganda. Today what's happening with Crimea is the control of the region by using propaganda with modern technology, modern communications, and therefore controlling people's minds. This is not a battle about rights of land dwellers. This is not a battle about the rights of passage of anything other than the rights of business. Business is what war has always been about. Business is what politics has always been about. It is never about the people. It is never about democracy. It is never about any of those things. It is about bending the truth.